Okay, so now that we know how to edit our database with our hands and our eyes, let's do this with code. For that, we'll need to add our connection string somewhere in our application. And because it's a very sensitive data, we want to do it in something called environment variable. So the first thing you want to do at the root of your project, you want to create a .env.local, and I'm going to put it in the root. There we go. And here you want to first name the variable. I'm going to call this Mongo URI. You can call it the way you want, just make sure it's capital letters and there is no space. If you want to add a space, you will need to add a dash, then equal, and then the value that we get previously from MongoDB. We can save the file and try to understand a little bit what is going on here. First, you'll notice that inside of the git ignore file, there is this thing that says .environments.local are basically ignored by Git, which means that anything you put in here will never be pushed to Git. So it's a safe place to put everything that is secure in your app. So the connection string, your Stripe API key to process payments, your API key to send emails. We'll study that later, but this is the place where you're going to put every sensitive information. You'll also notice that we're not writing JavaScript, we're not importing anything, not exporting anything. It's a very different structure than we've studied before. It's something very specific to Node.js. Okay, to understand how to get this value in the code so we can query our database, I'm going to log the value of it, process.env. the name of your variable. And if you do this and look at the console, you will see that I actually get the value right here. It's because we have this script running on the computer, npm run dev, and it's basically looking at any environment file, so a file that starts with .env, env, and then every variable that it finds there is going to add it inside of the process.environment object. And so if you want to call it in the code, you would have to do process.env. the name of the variable. Okay, and just as a security thing, here we are doing this command inside of a React server component. So this is going to be logged in the side of the server and not available on the client. But if you reference the variable somewhere in the code and you put it in here, you'll see that we can actually see the variable. The fact that this variable is inside of this .environment file doesn't mean it's invisible to users. It just means that it's not going to be sent on GitHub. And so it's staying on your local machine. I guess I'm going to delete that part because this is pretty dangerous to do. And let's recap really quick. So this .environment file is the place where you put every sensitive information you have in your app. There are two main advantages. The first one is that the file is staying on your local machine. It's not going to be sent to GitHub. And the second is that we can have different values based on the environment our application is running. Let me show you what I mean by this. Here we are working on our computer. We are building new features. We're testing things. So we want to make sure we work on a separate database as the one that will be used by our customers. So this connection string here is going to connect to the cluster. And if we had slash and then a name, whatever name you want after, I usually call mine dev. And by doing this, we're going to connect specifically on the dev database on the cluster. And in production, where our app is running on Vercel, instead of having dev, we can just say prod. And so that we connect to two different databases with the exact same variable name. So for now, I'm going to name this one dev. You can call it development. You can call it the way you want. And I'm going to use that thing here. I'm going to go to my project on Vercel. In the settings part, there is something called environment variable. And this is the equivalent of your environment file on your local machine. But this one is hosted on Vercel. And here is where you would add your environment variable. The key is what's before the equal sign. And the value is what is after. So you can copy paste the value, and instead of having the /dev, we're going to say /prod. And then when you save the project, now this variable will be available inside of your project hosted on Vercel. And so now when we are working on our computer, this function that will connect to the database is going to use the MongoDB URI we have in the environment.local because we are on our computer. And when it's going to be deployed in production on Vercel, it's going to use the values that we just set up in Vercel so that we can keep the exact same code and have two different values for the same variable. And you will see that it's common for developers to work on one database when you are coding and to work on another database for the production values.